What's up YouTube, welcome back to another video on my channel Skotrix, and today as you can see we are back on NBA 2K21 Next Gen, but not actually on the game. Today we are going to be ranking every single badge in NBA 2K21 Next Gen. This includes all finishing badges, shooting badges, playmaking badges, defense badges, everything. Every single badge in the game we are going to be ranking on this chart right here, from best to worst, with S tier being the best, A being the second best, all the way down to F, which is obviously the worst. And we're going to find a spot right here for every single badge on this chart. So without any further ado, let's get right into the video here. Alright, so first up right here we have Acrobat, and this is actually one of the most underrated badges in the game this year. I'm going to put it into the A category and I'll explain why. This badge is really underrated because it is not just Acrobat how it was in NBA 2K20 or NBA 2K21 current gen. It's a lot better because it's kind of like two badges put into one. And what I mean by that is it does the same thing that Acrobat did in NBA 2K20 and NBA 2K21, which is helps you make difficult shots at the rim like half spins, spins, hop steps, Euro steps, cradles, reverses, all of that, but it also gives you an additional ability to beat defenders using gather moves at the rim. So that's like what Fancy Footwork did in NBA 2K20 and NBA 2K21, in the sense that it basically helps you hop step by defenders. So it's basically like two badges put into one. Acrobat is super underrated and you're definitely going to want to get it on this year, and I recommend putting it onto silver. I don't recommend getting it all the way up to Hall of Fame. The reason why is because at Hall of Fame it unlocks fancy playground layups, and that's like those layups where you do like weird between the legs layups or 720 layups, and unless you want that, don't put this badge up to Hall of Fame, because at Hall of Fame you unlock those layups in the park. They don't work anywhere except the park. So if you're not playing park, you can go ahead and get this up to Hall of Fame, but otherwise I would recommend putting it onto silver or gold. And next up right here we have ankle braces, and I'm going to go ahead and put ankle braces all the way down to the E category. I don't think this is a very good badge this year. I think it's pretty much useless in most situations, just because how often do you really get your ankles broken that you're going to need this badge when there's so many other good defense badges that you can invest in that are better, that will help you out in a lot of different situations, whereas this badge only helps you out when you get your ankles broken, which really is not that often for most builds, especially considering how many builds have like 95 perimeter defense, 90 perimeter defense, 85 perimeter defense. It's pretty hard to break ankles this year, and if you have enough defense badges to get this badge, then you probably won't even need it anyways, because your defense attributes will be so good you'll never get your ankles broken. So pretty useless badge, ankle braces. Don't really recommend getting it under any circumstances. It could even be an F category badge, but I'm going to reserve this for the absolute useless badges, so I put it into the E category here. Next up we have ankle breaker, and I'm going to put ankle breaker into the C category. This is a pretty decent badge right here. Obviously it helps you get ankle breakers, but you really don't need it to break ankles. You can definitely break people's ankles without this badge, and even if you have this badge equipped, you won't get a ton of extra ankle breakers. You won't notice. You're going to go from getting no ankle breakers at all to getting like 3 or 4 a game. That's not going to happen even with this badge on Hall of Fame. You really are hardly ever going to get ankle breakers unless you're actually going for it. With or without this badge, you're hardly ever going to get ankle breakers unless you're actually going for them, or if you have the ankle breaker takeover. But even with that takeover, Space Creator works just as good, if not better, than this badge. So this is a C category badge. Will help you get ankle breakers, but it's not gonna give you a massive boost and just have you snapping everybody's ankles, and you also can break ankles without it. So it's a mid-tier badge, not amazing, not horrible. There's definitely better and worse playmaking badges. And next up right here we have antifreeze, and I'm going to put antifreeze all the way down into the E category right here, right with ankle braces. And basically what this badge does is reduces the likelihood of getting cold or losing takeover after taking poor shots. So unless you're just chucking up absolutely terrible shots all game, where you're like 100% smothered or you're at half court or something, there's really no point in putting this badge on. If you're just a decent shooter or a good shooter or just even a smart player that's maybe not the most skilled, as long as you're not taking a ton of stupid shots, this badge is basically useless for you and you won't need it. And even if you find that you are missing a lot of shots and you think you might want this badge to help you not get cold or not lose takeover as much, it doesn't really even make sense at that, because think about it like this: if you take away 4 badge points to put this badge onto Hall of Fame, you're basically incentivizing yourself to shoot poorly, because you're taking away badge points from badges that could help you shoot good and putting it onto a badge that activates when you shoot poorly. So you're basically kind of betting on yourself to shoot poorly when you should just be investing into badges that will help you shoot more consistently, so that you don't need this badge in the first place. That's really how I look at it. So this is pretty much a useless badge, E category badge. Don't put antifreeze on under any circumstances. It's not worth it. And next up right here we have back down Punisher. Now I know that this icon right here that I have is not actually what icon back down Punisher is in the game, but this is, for the sake of this video, the badge badge that we're going to use for Back Down Punisher, and I'm going to put this one all the way down into the E category as well. I don't really see the purpose for Back Down Punisher. Not a lot of post scorer builds in this game, so unless you are a post scorer, you really won't need it. And even if you are a post scorer, most big men have 95 strength, so you're going to have a tough time backing them down even with this badge. The only way I could see this being useful is if you're running two big men on the twos courts or something and you want your guard big man to be able to back down the opposing team's guard. But that's kind of cheesy. Don't do that. That's really just an annoying way to play the game. So yeah, Back Down Punisher is going into the E category here, not because it's a terrible badge. It's just because I don't really see the purpose for using it on 99% of builds. So Back Down Punisher goes into the E category as well. This one's really filling up, but it will start to bounce out as we go through the next few right here. But next up we have Bailout, and I'm going to put Bailout into the, I kind of want to put it into the F category, but it's not absolutely useless, so I'll put it into the E category. It is pretty useless though. I don't recommend putting Bailout on under any circumstances. You should have no problem making Bailout passes on basically any build, especially if you have enough playmaking badges to even think about getting Bailout. You probably have a really high pass accuracy, so you won't need it. And there's so many more important playmaking badges that you could get if you only have, let's say, 5 or 10 or even 15 playmaking badges, that I cannot see the point under any circumstances into putting in Bailout. You should be able to make Bailout passes even without this badge, so it's not like 2K20 where this was a decent badge. It's more like 2K21 current gen where this was basically a useless badge, and I do not recommend putting it on under any circumstances. So that's Bailout, another E category badge. Definitely don't want to put that one on. But next up right here we have Blinders, and I'm going to put Blinders into the D category. This could go into the C category even. It's really in between the two. It's a decent shooting badge, but kind of similar to some other badges on this list. I just can't see the point in putting it on unless you have at least 25 or so shooting badges. Then maybe you can invest into it on either bronze or silver. But if you only have like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 shooting badges, there's so many better badges that you're going to want to put on over Blinders. So it has to go into the D category here. Not because it's a terrible badge, it is a decent badge. I just can't see most builds needing it or having enough badge points to put it on. And now next up right here we have Box. And I'm going to put Box into the A category. It's really in between the B and the A category though. Box is a pretty good badge this year, and really the reason it's a good badge is because you only need it onto bronze. You don't need to worry about putting this badge onto silver, gold, or Hall of Fame. Put it onto bronze and you'll have no problem boxing out any opponent. So yeah, put Box onto bronze if you're a big man. If you're a guard, you don't need it, but for a big man, it's an amazing badge just on bronze. Definitely recommend putting it on. And next up right here we have Break Starter, and I'm actually going to put this one down all the way into the F category. Break Starter is basically completely useless in this game. If y'all don't know about my big man build has 25 pass accuracy, and I have no problem making full court passes without the Break Starter badge. So I cannot understand any circumstances where you need to put this badge on. It really seems absolutely pointless. If I can make full court passes with a 25 pass accuracy, you know, if you even have any playmaking badges, you should not need Break Starter. You will not need it, I promise you. This is basically a useless badge for any build, any circumstances. Maybe in the rec, but I mean still, you can make full court passes in the rec, so basically a useless badge right there. And next up right here we have Brick Wall. I'm going to put Brick Wall also into the A category. This is a really good badge if you're setting a lot of screens. Obviously then this is definitely an S category badge for you if you're a big man that sets screens. Basically what this badge does obviously is it makes it better for you to set screens, so you can set better screens. But it also reduces the stamina of people who run into your screens when you have Brick Wall equipped. And also at Hall of Fame you can set vicious screens in the park or the blacktop. So basically that's like those screens where the player runs into you and just goes absolutely flying or just smacks into the ground really hard. I'm sure you guys have seen vicious screens in the park before. If you get this badge onto Hall of Fame, that's how you set them this year. So this is a really good badge if you are a big man that sets screens. If you're not, it's basically useless for you because that's all it helps with is screens. So A category badge right there for Brick Wall. Next up right here we have Bullet Passer, and I'm going to put Bullet Passer into the D category. It really could even go into the E category. I don't really recommend putting this badge on unless you're like a playmaker with 30 playmaking badges. Then you could consider putting this badge on, not because it's a terrible badge. It basically just improves the velocity of your passes so you can make faster passes. It gets into your hand faster and it flies through the air faster. So it's good, you know, it's good to have that, but it's really one of those badges that's more of a luxury that you can get get if you have a ton of playmaking badges, but if you don't have an absolute ton of playmaking badges, then there's so many better badges to put on before you put on Bullet Passer, so it has to go into the D category right here. But next up right here we have Catch and Shoot, and I'm going to put Catch and Shoot into the A category. When I did my best shooting badges video, I put it into the B category. I'm going to bump it up a little bit because it is a really good badge, and if you're an off-ball player, this badge is absolutely essential for you. Catch and Shoot is an amazing badge. Even if you're an on-ball player, you might want to invest into it on silver, but if you're playing off-ball, get it on Hall of Fame. If you can only get it on gold, get it on gold, because it really is that good of a badge. Super important badge right there in Catch and Shoot. Now next up right here we have Chase Down Artist, and Chase Down Artist is going to be the first badge to drop into the B category right here. And the reason I'm putting Chase Down Artist into the B category is because it is a pretty good badge. Basically what it does is it boosts the speed and leaping ability of a player when chasing down an offensive player in anticipation of a block attempt. So basically, in shorter terms, it helps you get chase down blocks. Obviously that's why it's called Chase Down Artist. And the reason I'm putting this into the B category is because, similar to Box, it is a really good badge to get onto bronze if you can. It's also good on silver. You don't really need it on gold or Hall of Fame. It's really good on bronze and silver. So if you have a decent block rating and you're either a guard or a wing, you're definitely going to want to get Chase Down Artist on. Even if you're a big man and you have at least 20 to 25 defense badges, you could definitely consider investing into Chase Down on either bronze or silver, because it really does help you get chase down blocks on either layup or dunk attempts by the opposing team. But next up right here we have Circus Threes, and I know Joe Knows just made a video on this badge and said it was really good, but I'm gonna put it all the way down to the D category just because, you know, for the average player you really shouldn't be shooting Circus Threes, if I'm being honest with you. I know it's fun, I know it's really fun, and Joe Knows really made it look fun in that video, but I promise you, you're not Joe Knows. You're not going to be greening 100% of your fadeaway threes if you put this badge on. I promise you, you're just not. It's just not going to happen. So this is a D category badge. I don't really recommend putting it on unless you really want to be going crazy. Maybe you have like 30 shooting badges or something and you can already shoot lights out on standstill threes and standstill mid-ranges and all that. So you just want to put this badge on to expand your offensive game. Okay, I get that, but I really don't see the point of putting this badge on if you cannot green at least like super consistent percentage of your standstill shots already, since then you should definitely be investing into a better shooting badge that will help you make those shots before you even think about getting Circus 3. So that's a D category badge. It's not terrible, but I don't recommend putting it on for anybody who's not just trying to have fun and mess around a little bit in the game. But next up right here we have the first S tier badge, and that's going to be Clamps. This is a really good badge. I know a lot of people say, ooh, whatever, Clamps isn't as good as it's been in the past, but trust me, it's still a really good badge. It's still important for any guard build to have, and if you're a big man that can get Clamps, I know a lot of them can't, but if you are a big man that can get Clamps, it's still important for your build. So I'm putting Clamps into the S category right here. Obviously what it does is helps you clamp up opponents, and if they run into you while you have this badge on, there's a chance that they may pick up the ball or that you may hip ride them, which is a really good animation. So Clamps is an S category badge. Definitely recommend it for every single guard and any big man that can get it. And next up right here we have another defensive badge, and that is Clutch Defender, and I'm gonna put Clutch Defender down into the E category right here. I mean, not that this badge is useless, it's just that I cannot see a situation where you would want to use Clutch Defender over another badge on defense. Basically what it does is it boosts your defense abilities in clutch situations, which is good, that's cool, but again, similar to a badge like Bullet Passer, it's more of a luxury badge that if you have a ton of defense badges, you could consider it, but if you don't have a ton of defense badges, then I don't recommend getting Clutch Defender on at all. It's not worth it. There's so many better defensive badges than this one right here. So E category badge. And next up right here we have Clutch Shooter, and this is kind of the same thing. I'm going to put this one down into the D category. Again, not because it's an absolutely terrible badge. It's just not as good as some other shooting badges, and you really should not consider investing into this badge unless you have at least 24, 25, 26 shooting badges. You really shouldn't consider putting on Clutch Shooter. There's just so many other better shooting badges to invest in. But next up right here we have Corner Specialist, and I'm going to put Corner Specialist into the B category. This is a pretty good shooting badge. Basically what it does is improves your chance of making corner three-pointers. It does not help with mid-ranges this year in NBA 2K21 Next Gen. It only helps with corner threes, so keep that in mind when you're deciding if you want to put this badge on. But if you are somebody who shoots from the corner, this is an absolutely essential badge, and it's not just right from the corner. It's really from that whole zone. So if you look at your hot zone chart or something, it's really that whole zone from the corner all the way up to the point where it's almost at the wing, but not quite at the wing, you know what I mean? So it really works a little ways out of the corner. Hopefully that makes sense, but it is a decent badge. If you find yourself shooting a lot from the corner, you're definitely going to want to invest into it. If you don't find yourself ever shooting threes from the corner, then you can probably ignore corner specialist. And next up right here, we have another good shooting badge, and this is going to be Deadeye. Now I know, same thing to Back Down Punisher, this is not the icon for Deadeye, but for the sake of this video, this is the one that I'm going to be using just because I could not find the other one. So for Deadeye right here, I'm going to put this also into the B category. This is a really good shooting badge for basically any build in the game, big man, guard, wing, whatever. Deadeye is a super good badge. What it does is helps you make shots when there's a defender closing out. So if the defender's already in your face and you take a shot, Deadeye will not help you. It only helps you if defenders are closing out and if they're closing out from in front of you. If they're closing out from the side, that's what Blinders does right here. But if they're closing out from in front of you, which happens more than from the side in my opinion, then you're definitely going to want to have Deadeye on because it will give you a significant boost on making those shots, making them a lot more likely to go in than they would be without the badge. So Deadeye is a really good badge to consider investing into. If you have at least, I would say 10 to 15 shooting badges, you're definitely going to want to look into Deadeye. I like it best on gold. Some people like it really good on Hall of Fame. So it's up to you how high you want to put it, but I recommend gold for Deadeye. And next up right here, we have another good shooting badge, and this is actually going to be an S tier badge right here, and that is Deep Threes. This is a really good shooting badge. It obviously allows you to extend your range into deeper 3-point territory when shooting, so really important to do that. You do not need this badge to make super deep threes. I've been greening from almost half court without this badge equipped. If you guys have watched my build guide videos, you usually see I have clips of me greening from like half court, and I never have this badge on in any of those clips. So you don't need it to make super deep threes, but it definitely does give a significant boost, and obviously extending your range when shooting is super important for any shooting build. So deep threes is definitely going to be a badge that you're going to want to invest into for literally any shooting build. Get it as high as you can. And next up right here, we have defensive leader. I'm going to put defensive leader all the way down into the D tier right here. Even though this really could go into the E tier here as well, I'm going to put it into the D tier just because I really don't see the point in using it. Basically what it does is it's like floor general for defense. It gives your teammates attributes for defense a boost when you have this badge on and you're on the floor with them. So if you have this badge on bronze, it will give all of your teammates defensive attributes a +1 boost. On silver it's +2, on gold it's +3, and on Hall of Fame it's +4. So you could give your teammates a slight defensive boost with this, but you basically have to upgrade it all the way up to Hall of Fame and use 4 points for your teammates to see any sort of even slightly significant difference in their defense. So I really don't see the point in investing in this, especially when there's so many better defense badges that you could invest in, and it's really just one of those badges that's basically useless, especially for Park. The reason I'm putting in the D category and not the E or the F category is because it does have some usage in the rec, especially when you have 4 teammates on the floor with you and you want to boost all of their defense up. Maybe you're the big man and you have like 30 defense badges and you can afford to get this up to Hall of Fame to help out all 4 of your teammates. Then it could be worth it. But if you're playing 2s or 3s in the Park where it's only boosting 1 or 2 of your teammates, really not worth it as a badge right there, but maybe for the rec. And now next up right here, we have difficult shots, and I'm going to put difficult shots into the D category as well. I know a lot of these badges are really going into the mid to low tier right here, but they will start to even out as we keep going. But specifically for difficult shots, the reason I'm putting it so low is because it's basically like Circus 3s, but only for mid ranges. Difficult shots does not work for 3-pointers this year, and to be honest, you shouldn't be shooting too many fadeaway mid ranges. I know some people shoot them sometimes, but you should be able to set your feet and shoot a good standstill mid-range most of the time. And along with it not boosting 3-pointers this year, difficult shots just is not as good as it's been in the last 2 years. And by 2 years, I mean 2K21 current gen and 2K20. So that's why it's a D category badge right here. But next up, we have another S category badge, and that is going to be Dimer. This is a really good badge. One of the best playmaking badges. Obviously, it helps your teammates score when you pass them the ball and they shoot. It helps increase the likelihood that that shot will go in. But one thing that's weird about this year is it only works in the half court. So if you make a deep outlet pass, it won't help. It only works in the half court situation. So I don't know if that really affects it. For you, for me, it doesn't really. It's still a really good badge, especially if you play with a lot of shooters on your team and you're the one who's making plays and setting them up, passing to them. This badge is super important. It'll help them green a lot more consistently. So S category badge right there. But next up, we have Downhill. And I'm going to put downhill into the C category. It could even go into the B category. This is a pretty underrated badge. Downhill is really, really good for those 6'8" or 6'9" big man builds that have a lot of playmaking as well as a lot of finishing. So if that sounds like a build that you have, you're definitely going to want to invest into downhill. If you don't have that build, it's not as useful for you. It's still a decent badge for some builds in the rec, but mostly for 6'8" or 6'9" big men, this is a super good badge. You can get the rebound and get straight to running in transition. And trust me, you can move quite a bit faster getting this badge up to gold or Hall of Fame if you can. So that's a pretty good badge right there. Not amazing, not terrible. Pretty much a mid-tier badge right there for downhill. And next up right here we have Dream Shake, and this was a playmaking badge the last 2 years, but now they moved it to a finishing badge, which in my opinion makes a lot more sense, and I'm going to put this as well into the C category. Basically what this badge does is it increases the chance of post fakes, stunning a defender, and also shot attempts following post moves, and shot fakes have an increased shot percentage. So in my opinion, this is probably the best post scorer badge, other than maybe deep hooks if you're shooting a lot of deep hooks. So if you're a post scorer, you're definitely going to want to invest into Dream Shake. It's one of the best badges for you. If you're not a post scorer, even if you're a 6'9" big man, you know, this badge probably is not worth it for you. Maybe if you have a ton of finishing badges, like 20 plus, then you could look at investing into this one, but otherwise I don't really see the point. I only see it being useful for post scorers, and if you are a post scorer, it's a really good badge, so you're definitely going to want to invest into it. But next up right here we have Drop Stepper, and I'm going to put Drop Stepper into the F category. I mean, I would put it into the E category, but this is really filling up. Drop Stepper is basically useless too, so unless you're using a lot of drop step moves, which I would assume most people are not, I really do not recommend putting this badge on at all, because obviously all it does is help you do drop steps, and I barely ever see anybody doing drop steps. It really doesn't work, if I'm being honest. It's one of the worst post moves you can do, so Drop Stepper is basically a useless badge. Unless you for some reason do a lot of drop steps, then you might want to invest into it, but otherwise you're probably good without it right there. But next up right here we have Fade Ace, and I'm going to go ahead and put Fade Ace into the E category right here. It's really in between the E and the D category. Basically what this badge does is it helps you shoot post fadeaways. It doesn't help with leaning shots, like the type of shots that difficult shots would help with. That's what this badge is for, but post fades right here is only for, you know, if you're backing down a defender and you shoot a post fadeaway. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what a post fadeaway is. Then that's where this badge will help. Otherwise it won't help you out at all. So if you find yourself shooting a lot of post fades, you might want to invest into this, and if you do, I would put it as high as possible. But most people don't shoot a lot of post fades. It's a lot better to just shoot standstill shots, honestly. Either spot up in the corner and shoot threes, or spot up in the short corner and shoot mid ranges, rather than trying to shoot post fades, just because it's not as consistent. So I don't recommend this badge, just because I do not recommend shooting a lot of post fades. So that's why it's in the E category right here. But again, if you do shoot a lot of them, go ahead and put it on right there. But next up we have Fearless Finisher, and I'm going to go ahead and put Fearless Finisher into the B category. This one could go into the A category though. It's a really good finishing badge. Basically what it does is it strengthens a player's ability to absorb contact and still finish at the rim, and it also reduces the amount of energy lost from contact layups. So it's a really good finishing badge for any slashing build. It could even go in the A category, like I said. It's pretty similar to Relentless Finisher last year, and that was definitely one of my favorite finishing badges from last year, just like Fearless Finisher is definitely one of my favorite finishing badges for this year, and I for sure recommend it for any slashing build in the game, whether you're a guard, a big man, or a wing. It's really good. But next up right here we have Floor General, and I'm going to put Floor General into the A category, but this one really is somewhere in between the A and the B category right here. Same with Fearless Finisher right here. They're both kinda in between this area. Basically what Floor General does is it's like defensive leader for offense, but the reason I'm putting it so much higher than defensive leader right here is because it boosts finishing, shooting, and playmaking, whereas defensive leader only boosts defense. So Floor General is definitely a better badge, especially because boosting shooting is so much more important than boosting defense, and plus you get playmaking and finishing on top of that. So it's really good for somebody on the court to have this badge. If you're a guard and you have at least 15 to 20 playmaking badges, I recommend getting this badge to help out your teammates, unless maybe you're playing 2s and your 2's teammate just doesn't need it. Maybe they're really good and they don't need it. Then you don't need to invest into it. But if you're playing 3s, or if you're playing Rec or Pro-Am or something like that, I definitely recommend investing into Floor General. It's a super useful badge, and your teammates are going to love you for putting it on, just like with Dimer. But next up right here we have Giant Slayer, and I'm going to put Giant Slayer down into the D category. The reason I don't put this badge on, not because it's terrible, just because there's not a lot of super tall players in this game. Basically everybody is 6'8", 6'9". That's really the max height you see. Sometimes you'll see people 6'10", 6'11", but you never really see people who are super tall. And this badge really only helps when there's a significant height difference of 4 or 5 inches or more. So unless you're a player that's like 6'3" maybe, and you're trying to score over a lot of people who are like 6'8", 6'9", there's really no point in putting this badge on. If you're 6'6" plus, you're not going to get enough benefit out of this badge. Even if you're 6'5" plus, you're probably not going to get enough benefit out of this badge to even consider putting it on, even if you're a slasher. So Giant Slayer, it's not a terrible badge. It's just everybody's kind of in the same sort of height range in this game, so it doesn't have as much usefulness as it's had in years past. That's why it's going into the D category right here. But next up we have Green Machine. I'm going to go ahead and put Green Machine into the C category. Now I know a lot of people probably think that Green Machine should be higher up into the B, the A, or even the S, but the reason I'm putting it into the C category, I've actually done whole videos on Green Machine in the past. I did one for NBA 2K21 current gen, and I explained really why it's not a super useful badge, but I will explain quickly again now. Basically the reason I'm ranking Green Machine so low, and it's not low, it's in the middle, it's a mid-tier badge, it's not a terrible badge. I'm putting it in the C category, so it's a mid-tier badge, but the reason I'm putting it down here is because you have to green 2 shots to activate Green Machine on the 3rd shot. So if you think about that, the first 2 shots you have to green without the badge, so you're not getting any boost from the shooting badges that you invested into Green Machine, right? You have to green 2, you can't make them without greening. If you white it and it goes in, that doesn't count, right? You have to green 2 shots just to slightly increase the chance of you greening the 3rd shot and any shots after that. So unless you're a guard that's playing 2s or 3s and you're just chucking up shots like 7, 8 shots a game, and you're greening like at least 70 to 80% of your shots, I really do not see the point in investing in this badge, just because usually players who have this badge on don't even shoot enough in a game to activate it. And even if they do shoot enough, usually they're not greening basically every shot to have it activated and keep it activated. Because even if you make a shot with this badge, after, like, let's say you make your 2 greens, you activate it, and then you shoot and you don't green, but let's even say it goes in, it still deactivates the badge and you have to green 2 more to get it back. So this badge really is not useful for most builds, again, unless you're a guard that's super good and takes a high volume of shots. That's why it goes in the C category right here. A lot of people think it's really good. It's really not, unless you're an absolutely amazing player who has a high shot volume and green percentage. But next up right here we have Handles for Days, and I'm going to put this into the S category. This is a super good badge, one of the most important playmaking badges for sure. What it does is it keeps your stamina from decreasing too much while doing dribble moves, so it's a really good badge for any player who dribbles a lot, or any guard. If you're a guard, you definitely are going to want Handles for Days up as high as you can get it, whether that's gold or hopefully Hall of Fame. You're definitely going to want to have this badge right here up as high as you can get it, because if you don't have it on, you're going to notice you're losing stamina pretty quickly when dribbling, and that's really annoying. So you're going to want this badge up as high as you can get it. But next up right here we have Heart Crusher, and I'm going to go ahead and put Heart Crusher into the B category. This is a pretty good badge. Basically what it does is when you perform a highlight play on defense, you will lower the takeover of the player who you performed the highlight play against. So if you steal a ball from somebody, you'll basically take away their whole takeover if you have this badge on Hall of Fame. Or if you block somebody, you'll basically take away their whole takeover, and you could even make them cold. You'll take away all their momentum. So it is a pretty good badge if you have at least, I would say, you know, about 20 defense badges, maybe 15. You could definitely invest into this badge either onto silver if you only have a few defensive badges, or Hall of Fame if you have a ton. And I find this badge works slightly better for big men, so I'll throw that out there as well. If you're a guard, you might not want to consider it because there are some better badges that you might want to invest into. But if you're a big man, you're definitely going to want to consider at least putting this badge on because it is pretty good. And next up right here, we have Heat Seeker, and I'm going to go ahead and put this as the first finishing badge into the S category. This is a super good badge. Basically what it does is it increases your takeover when you score at the rim, whether that's a dunk, a layup, anything like that, it will significantly increase your takeover. So if you have a slashing takeover, this is an absolutely essential badge for you. You will find you get your takeover so fast with this badge, and you're definitely going to want to get it. If you don't have a slashing takeover, it still is a decent badge if you finish at the rim a lot. If you don't finish at the rim a lot and you don't have a slashing takeover, you don't need it. But if you either have a slashing takeover or you finish at the rim a lot, or if that's both, you have a slashing takeover and you finish at the rim a lot, you're definitely going to want Heat Seeker. It's a super good badge. It really is one of the best. You'll find you get your takeover basically instantly from doing a dunk or a layup. But yeah, next up right here we have Highlight Film. I'm going to go ahead and put Highlight Film into the C category. This is a decent badge. Basically what it does is dunks that are performed either on the fast break or with style give you and all of your teammates a takeover boost. So this is a pretty good badge. The boost is nowhere near as high as Heat Seeker's boost, but it is nice because your teammates do get a little boost as well. And if you score a lot on the fast break, this is a badge that you'll definitely want to consider investing into because you'll get your takeover quick, your teammates will get their takeover quick, everybody will be happy. Also, if you do a lot of dunks in style, like fancy dunks or whatever, same thing, this badge might be something that you want to invest into. But if you don't find yourself doing that a ton, this is probably something that you can ignore. It's really one of those badges that you need at least 20 finishing badges to want to have on, just because the takeover boost that it gives isn't that significant. It is a nice little boost, but it's not that significant, and there is a lot of other better finishing badges that you want to invest into before this one. So it's a mid-tier badge, C-tier badge right here, decent but not amazing. And next up right here we have Deep Hooks. I'm going to go ahead and put Deep Hooks into the C category. Now this is a decent badge. It's actually called Hook Specialist, not Deep Hooks, but basically what it does is it gives a boost to post hooks taken from any distance. So if you find yourself shooting post hooks, whether you're a post scorer or whatever, this is definitely a badge you're going to want to invest into 100%. If you don't find yourself shooting post hooks, you can probably ignore this badge. You really won't need it. It's basically useless for you. So if you shoot post hooks, you want it. If you don't want it. And yeah, pretty straightforward with that badge. And next up right here we have another S category badge, and that's going to be Hot Shot. This badge is very similar to Heat Seeker, but it's basically the shooting version of Heat Seeker. So if you have a shooting takeover or you shoot a lot, you're definitely going to want to invest into this one right here because it will give you your takeover stupid quick. You make 2 shots with this badge on Hall of Fame if you have a shooting takeover, and you will basically have your shooting takeover ready to activate. So yeah, Hot Shot, there's not really much I can say about this. Basically pretty similar to Heat Seeker. Definitely a badge you are going to want to invest into right there if you're a shooter. But next up right here we have the defense version, and that's going to be Hot Stopper. Now this one's not quite as good as the other two just because you can get defensive takeovers really quick even without this badge, but it is still a really good badge. So I'm going to put it into the S category right here. Basically the same thing as with the other badges. Really good if you have a defensive takeover. If you don't have a defensive takeover, you probably don't need to invest into this one because there are a lot of important defense badges that you're going to want to put on before this. But if you do have a defensive takeover and you have at least, 12 defense badges, then you'll for sure going to want to invest into Hot Stopper right here. But next up right here we have another good S category badge, and that's going to be Hot Zone Hunter. Now the S category is really filling up right here, and this badge is super important. If you have hot zones anywhere on the floor, especially the zones where you shoot a lot, you're definitely going to want to have this badge on. It provides a significant boost on top of the boost that the hot zones provide. So it's really important for any shooting build, but you do need hot zones for it to help you out. But if you have hot zones, super important. Definitely a S category badge right there for Hot Zone Hunter. And next up right here we have Ice and Veins. I'm going to put Ice and Veins down into the F category. I mean, I don't really see the point in using this. I guess if you play a lot of a mode that has free throws and you shoot a lot of free throws, you find yourself taking a lot of free throws in clutch situations, because what this badge does is free throws taken in the second half of a close game or overtime periods are given a boost. Also, the timing window for free throws becomes larger. So yeah, basically this badge helps with free throws, which is okay, but the reason I'm not putting it into the E or the D category is because it only helps with free throws in the second half or overtime of a close game. So you have to be in the second half and in a close game for this badge to even activate. It doesn't help with all free throws. If it helped with every single free throw, it might make it into the E category, but it doesn't. It only helps with free throws in the second half or overtime of a close game. So I mean, I don't really see the point for this badge. Obviously, you know what it does. If you think it's a badge that you want to invest into, you could definitely consider it, but I don't see the point in putting it on right there. But next up right here we have Interceptor. This is a pretty good badge. I'm going to go ahead and put it into the B category. I know a lot of people don't upgrade their steal on this build, so they might not be able to get interceptor, but if you can get it, it's definitely a good badge to invest into if you have at least 15 defense badges, because what it does is it helps you get passing lane steals, and also it helps you tip the ball in the passing lane. So that's really good. Definitely you're something that you're going to want to invest into, again, if you have at least 15 or so defense badges, because having this badge will really help you out get passing lane steals. But the reason I'm not putting it into a higher category is because most builds really don't have too high of a steal, so you might not even be able to get this badge, or if you can get this badge, you might not be able to get too many steals just because your steal is not upgraded super high. But if you have a high steal and you have the badges to invest into it, definitely do it. It is a good badge. But next up right here, we have another really good defense badge, and that is Intimidator. I'm going to go ahead and put Intimidator into the S category right here. It is a really good badge. I know a lot of people say, ooh, Intimidator's terrible this year, it does nothing. Not true, it definitely helps out, especially if you're a big man or a guard that finds yourself guarding a lot of people in the paint. You're for sure going to want to invest into Intimidator as long as you can. I know some guard builds can't, but if you can get this badge, you're definitely going to want to. It should be one of the first badges you put on for sure, because it is definitely one of the best. That's Intimidator right there. Definitely a badge that you're going to want so that you can cause your opponents to miss as many shots as possible. Now next up right here, we have Lob City Finisher. I'm going to go ahead and put Lob City Finisher into the A category. This is a super good finishing badge. If you're catching a lot of lobs, which a lot of people are nowadays, you are for sure going to want to have this badge on to Hall of Fame, or if you can only get it onto Gold, you're for sure going to want to have it on Gold, because it is a really good badge, a super essential finishing badge. And obviously what it does is helps improve your ability to catch and complete lobs. So super essential right there. There's not really too much I could say about it. If you're catching a lot of lobs, put that badge on for sure. Now next up right here, we have Needle Threader. I'm going to go ahead and put Needle Threader into the C category. This is a good badge, but you really don't need it on this year. If you have a ton of playmaking badges, for sure you could put it on. If you have at least like 20-25 playmaking badges, you could put this on Bronze, Silver, Gold, Hall of Fame. It's good on whatever. I like it on Bronze. I find it good enough, but it is good if you put it up higher, especially if you find yourself getting your passes stolen from you a lot. Then you might want to invest into this, but otherwise I think it's a badge that you can really ignore for playmaking. More of a luxury badge, but it is one of the better luxury badges, to be honest. So that's Needle Threader. Basically what it does, if you don't know, is it helps you complete passes through traffic. So if there's a defender in between you and the person you want to pass to, and you pass the ball with Needle Threader, there's a lot less of a chance that that defender will either tip or steal the ball out of the air. So yeah, Needle Threader is a pretty mid-tier badge. But next up right here, we have Off-Ball Pest. And this one's going all the way down into the F category. There is a lot of, false information going around as to what this badge actually does. It does not help you guard people off the ball, or some people are just making up a lot of random stuff that this badge does. Basically what it does is if a defender or an offensive player rather is standing still for a few seconds and you're the defender on them with Off-Ball Pest badge on, you will kind of grab them in this weird animation after they've been standing still for a few seconds, and then when they try to move, they'll have some difficulty moving. It's really weird. It's not that helpful. People can get out of it after a second or two and they'll be able to move fine again, and that's really all it does. So there's a lot of better badges to invest into before you even look at Off-Ball Pest. I mean, I really can't imagine any purpose of putting this badge on, unless maybe you just want to mess with people by grabbing them or whatever. But yeah, pretty useless badge to be honest, so I don't recommend Off-Ball Pest for any build, basically under any circumstances. But next up right here, we have Pick Dodger, and Pick Dodger is for sure an A tier badge. This is also one of those badges that people say it doesn't really help, but it honestly does. If you can get this badge onto Hall of Fame and you're a guard, put it onto Hall of Fame. If you can only get it onto Gold, put it onto Gold. If you're a big man, you don't really need it. But if you're a guard, this is a super important badge, because big men will tell you, even if you're a guard, you might not think so, but big men will tell you they cannot help you come up when you get stuck on screens, because contact alley-oops in this game are absolutely crazy, and if the big man even takes one step up further than they have to, you're going to get contact alley-ooped on, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. So if you're a guard, please put this badge on, help out your big man. It's for sure going to help. Then the big man won't have to come up to help you, and he won't get contact alley-oop dunked on. So definitely Pick Dodger is an important badge. Obviously what it does is help you dodge screens, and you're for sure going to want it for any guard build. But next up right here, we have Pickpocket, and I'm going to go ahead and put Pickpocket into the C category. Basically what this badge does is it helps improve your ability to get on-ball steals, and it also helps improve your ability to not foul the dribbler when you press square or X if you're on Xbox. And that's really where this badge is really good. Basically, with this badge, you can spam square or you can spam X, and you will not get called for fouls nearly as much as you would without this badge. It doesn't help as much with getting on-ball steals, if I'm being honest. It doesn't help as much as what people will say or what people assume. It does help a little bit, but it's not super amazing for that. It's really better for just spamming steal and not getting called for fouls, because then the defender, or the offensive player rather, will not be able to dribble combo as well if you're just continuously spamming steal. It's really annoying for any offensive player, so that's where this badge really shines. It's not as good for stealing the ball, better for just reaching and spamming reach and not getting called for fouls, messing up the offensive player's dribbling. But next up right here we have Pogo Stick, and I'm going to put Pogo Stick into the B category. This is a pretty good defense badge for basically any big man build. It's definitely better than it was in 2K21 current gen. It's not quite as good as it was in 2K20, but it is a lot more important because some of the jumping animations in this game are absolutely crazy. You'll jump up for a block and you just won't come down and won't gather yourself for like 2 seconds. It's absolutely ridiculous. So you're going to want to have Pogo Stick on if you're a big man with at least maybe 15 to 20 defense badges. You're for sure going to want to invest into Pogo Stick. It'll definitely help you out. But playing defense, try not to jump as much as possible, because like I said, some of the landing animations after you jump for a block are absolutely insane. So try not to jump as much as possible, but if you find yourself getting caught in the air, Pogo Stick is definitely a badge that you're going to want to invest into. But next up right here we have another S category badge, and this one's really starting to fill up, and that's going to be Posterizer. Obviously what this badge does is it helps you posterize people, get contact dunks, and that's super important. Not only because it's super fun to get contact dunks, but also because it is super good. It's a super efficient way to score, it's a super good way to score, and if you're getting contact dunks, you're going to be happy because they are super fun. So yeah, Posterizer, super good badge. Obviously it helps you get contact dunks. Definitely a badge any slasher is going to want to invest into, whether you're a big man or a guard or a wing. You're for sure going to want Posterizer. But next up right here we have Post Move Lockdown. I'm going to put Post Move Lockdown all the way into the F category. The reason why is because first of all, there's not that many post scorers in this game, and second of all, even if you do go up against a post scorer, this badge really won't help because they're probably just going to post hook spam all game, and Post Move Lockdown doesn't really do anything to help that. So basically this is a useless badge. I don't recommend investing into it for any build, under any circumstances, in any mode. It really is a pretty useless badge. So yeah, not really too much more to say about Post Move Lockdown. Probably not something that you're going to want to invest into for any builds. But next up right here we have Post Spin Technician, and I'm going to go ahead and put this one into the D category. This really is a decent badge if you want to do the post spin cheese technique, but if you don't really do that, if that's not your playstyle, which hopefully it's not because that's super annoying, then you really do not need to invest into this badge. It's not a badge for you. But if you are doing the post spin cheese, it is a really good badge. That's why I'm putting it into the D category, not the E or the F. So yeah, Postspin Technician, not really much I could say about that either. Or one thing that I will bring up about Postspin Technician actually is if you're doing post spin moves, it also lowers the chance of getting the ball stripped from you. So that's just something extra. Probably won't change most people's mind about this badge, but just in case you didn't know that, there you go. But next up right here we have another decent finishing badge, and that's Pro Touch. I'm going to go ahead and put Pro Touch into the B category. It could even go into the A category, to be honest. It is a really good badge. Basically what it does is it gives an extra shot boost for having slightly early or slightly late timings on your layup, and it also applies to slightly right or slightly left shots if you're aiming with your stick, which I don't recommend. I recommend shooting layups with timing, not aiming, but if you do aim, it will help you out with that as well. And a lot of people were disputing me about this badge on my finishing badges video, but that is what it does. It does help with slightly earlies, it does help with slightly lates. That's right off of 2K. If you read the description of the badge in the game, that's what it says. So that is what it does 100%. There's no disputing that. If anybody tells you anything different, they're lying 100%. That is what it does. And also on 2K, it says that it gives you a boost for excellent timing shots and center aiming. So I don't really know what that means. Maybe it helps you make more consistent excellent shots. Maybe it increases your window for excellent shots. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I do know it is a really good badge, especially if you have a super high layup. and not as high of a dunk, but even if you have a really good layup and dunk, it will still help you out a lot for layups, no matter what build you have. Definitely something that I would consider investing into for any build, any position. Definitely a good badge. But next up right here we have Putback Boss, and I'm going to go ahead and put Putback Boss into the D category. This could even go into the E category. The reason I'm putting it so low is not because it's a terrible badge. The reason I'm putting it so low is because I do not see the point for using it on basically any build. And what I mean by that is basically any big man build that would want to consider Putback Boss badge is probably a good shooter, so you're not going to be getting a ton of offensive rebounds anyways, because you're going to be sitting in the corner when your teammates either miss or whatever to get offensive rebounds. You're going to be sitting in the corner looking for a 3, I would assume. Maybe sometimes you'll get offensive rebounds, but it's not going to be super consistent. So there's a lot of better finishing badges that I would invest into before this one. Unless you find yourself getting an absolute ton of offensive rebounds and going back up with the ball, then invest in Putback Boss. But otherwise, I don't see that happening for most builds. So I don't really consider it a very important finishing badge, but it is decent for sure. But next up right here we have Quick First Step, and I'm going to go ahead and put Quick First Step into the S category. This is actually a pretty good badge. I know the S category up here is really starting to fill up, but Quick First Step is a super important badge. It has to go into the S category. I cannot put it any lower. Super important. Basically what it does is gives you a speed boost when driving out of the triple threat or after a size up, and it also gives ball handlers access to quicker and more effective launches. So it's a super important badge. Whether you're a big man, a wing, a guard, it doesn't matter. This is one of the best playmaking badges. You'll notice your player either out of the triple threat, when you catch the ball, you're going to be launching a lot faster, or if you're doing size up moves, you're going to be launching a lot faster out of them, especially if you have speed boosting on your build. But even if you don't, you're going to really want this badge. It helps out a ton for any build, any slashing build. Even if you're a shooter and not a slasher, this is still a badge that you probably want to invest into. Super important. And yeah, that's Quick First Step right there. And next up we have another S category badge, but I really have to put this in the S category again, and that is Rebound Chaser right here. Super good badge. Obviously what it does is helps you chase down rebounds, which you would not be able to get without the badge. Rebounds that are outside of your regular rebound range. So in other words, it'll help you get rebounds that are further away from you than you would normally be able to get. So super important badge for basically any big man build. Definitely one of the first badges you should invest into. And even if you're a guard with at least 10 to 15 defense badges, Rebound Chaser might be something that you want to invest into there. If you have your rebound upgraded to a decent rating, definitely a really good defense badge on Rebounder Chaser. Not too much I can really say about it. Super important badge, definitely something that you're going to want to invest into. But next up right here we have Rhythm Shooter, and I'm going to go ahead and put Rhythm Shooter down into the D category. This really is not a super amazing badge, but it is decent. Basically what it does is increases the chance of a made shot after sizing up your opponent with dribble moves. So if you do a signature size up move and then shoot out of that, it will increase your chances of that shot going in. But to be honest, unless you're shooting out of signature size ups a lot, like you're doing curry slides and then shooting, if you find yourself doing that a lot, then this is a badge you'll definitely want to invest into. But if you're not doing that, you really don't need this badge on at all. It's not going to help you out. I saw some guy comment on my best shooting badge videos that Rhythm Shooter is only good for big man builds. I don't know what kind of crack that guy was smoking, but that's definitely not true at all. It's only good for guard builds that do a lot of size up moves. But if that sounds like you, this is something you want to invest into. It's a decent badge. It's not amazing. It's not going to give you a huge boost. You're probably going to want at least 15 to 20 shooting badges before you want to consider investing into this badge, just because you're going to want to cover the bases first, like Hot Zone Hunter and Hot Shot and a few other badges maybe. But this is definitely a decent badge if you're a dribbler. If you're not a super spam dribble type of player, definitely something you can ignore because it won't help you out too much. But next up right here we have Rim Protector, and I'm also going to put Rim Protector into the S category. This one's almost full right here. I could probably only fit one more badge in here, but Rim Protector has to go into the S category badge. It's a super good badge. Basically what it does obviously is it helps you get blocks, but not only does it just help you get blocks, it also unlocks special block animations, and it boosts your takeover meter when you block somebody, and it also boosts your teammates' takeover when you block somebody. And at Hall of Fame level, it unlocks hard fouls, which is kind of a downside of this badge if I'm being honest, in my opinion, just because I find hard fouls super annoying. So if you are going to put into Rim Protector, definitely get it on gold. In my opinion, maybe you like hard fouls and you want to get it onto Hall of Fame, but I say getting this badge onto gold is super, super important. If you're a big man or maybe even a guard with a high block rating, then it's definitely something you're going to want to invest into. And basically what hard fouls are, I'll just bring this up really quick if anybody doesn't know, is they're those fouls that when somebody goes up to the rim, you'll absolutely maul them and you'll get a foul, and because you got a foul, some of your teammates will get a little smidge of takeover, but it's really not worth it because those fouls would not trigger as regular fouls if they weren't hard fouls. So what I mean by that is if you didn't have hard fouls on, that would have just been a really good contest and the person would have missed. You probably would have got the rebound and had the ball back. So that's really good. But if you have the hard fouls badge, then that's not going to happen. You're just going to foul the person. Your teammates are going to get a tad of takeover and the people who you foul, they're going to get the ball. Or if you're playing rec, they might get free throws. So really not good to have the hard fouls on in my opinion. Some people like them maybe, I don't know, I don't. But Rim Protector still is definitely a very good badge to get onto gold or Hall of Fame if you don't mind the hard fouls. But next up right here we have Rise Up, and basically what Rise Up does is it increases your chances of making standing dunks. So I'm going to put Rise Up into the E category. This isn't a terrible badge, but I mean, how often you really see people doing standing dunks? And usually if you're doing a standing dunk, you're wide open and you don't need a badge to boost you anyways. So not really too much I can say about Rise Up. Helps you make standing dunks. If you find yourself missing a lot of standing dunks, maybe you want to invest into it. Otherwise, not really worth it. So yeah, next up right here we have Set Shooter. And I'm going to put Set Shooter into the C category. This is a decent shooting badge if you're a spot up shooter. Basically what it does is it gives a shot boost after standing still before taking a jump shot. So if you find that you have time to stand still for a second before you take a jump shot, this is definitely a badge that you're going to want to invest into because the boost is quite significant. But a lot of the times I find that I don't really have time to stand still for a second before shooting. And you do have to stand still for a decent amount of time before shooting for this badge to even work. There is another badge called Stop and Pop, which we're going to get to in a second, that's kind of similar to this. But you don't have to stand still for like a whole second or 2 seconds before shooting for it to trigger. So you might want to invest in Stop and Pop instead of Set Shooter. But again, if you do find yourself standing still, definitely a good badge for sure. But it's in the C category because I cannot see a lot of situations where players can do that. But next up right here we have Slithery Off Ball, and I'm going to put this badge into the E category and I'll explain why. Basically this badge is a shooting badge and it's probably the worst shooting badge in the whole game, up there with Ice and Veins in my opinion, because it's really not useful for shooting. Basically what Slithery Off Ball is useful for is finishing, believe it or not, and I'll explain why. Basically what most people use this badge for, if they do use it, is if you're running for a lob, you don't want to get contact while you're running for the lob, so you put this badge on so you can kind of avoid that contact. But the reason that this badge is not as useful this year as it has been in years past, and what I mean by that again is 2K21 current gen and 2K20, is because, well, there's two reasons. The first reason is there's contact alley-oops now, so that's not as big of a problem. You know, you don't really mind if you get some contact when going up for a lob because you'll just do a contact alley-oop. And the second reason is that most builds that can slash can also shoot now. So instead of investing into this badge as your shooting badge, you're probably going to want to invest into some badges that actually help you shoot so that you can shoot more consistently and finish consistently. So this badge really got bumped down. It could even be in the F tier, but I'm going to put it into the E tier right here because it does still have kind of a use, and you could put it on even. It also helps you get around off-ball screens, so you know, you could use it if you're a shooter, maybe if you go off a lot of off-ball screens, but still not a very useful badge for really any circumstances. But yeah, that's Slippery Off-Ball right there. And next up we got Slithery Finisher, and I'm actually going to have to squeeze this one into the S category here as well, because Slithery Finisher is a super good badge, one of the best finishing badges in the whole game. Basically what it does is increases your ability to slide through traffic and avoid contact during gathers and finishes at the rim. And I know what you might be thinking, well, wouldn't this badge then lower the chances of getting contact dunks? No, it doesn't. It doesn't lower your chances of getting contact dunks at all, so don't worry about that. Basically what it will do is help you, if you're not going to get a contact dunk, it'll help you go around the defender instead of just going right up into them and missing or whatever. So it's really good, and it'll also lower the contest percentage that defenders will get on you. So if you're going up for a shot without Slithery Finisher, let's say the defender's kind of close but not super close, maybe they'll get a 15% contest, which could cause you to miss the shot if they have Intimidator, or if you just really mistime the shot, it could cause you to miss it, assuming it's a layup and not a dunk. But even if it is a dunk, sometimes Intimidator will make you miss. But if you have Slithery Finisher on Hall of Fame, that might bump that down all the way to like a 4% contest, or a 5% contest. So really a good badge for situations like that, as well as situations where you're going up into contact and trying to finish at the rim, because it'll help you slither through the contact a little bit. So slithery finisher, super good badge right there. And next up we have Sniper. And I'm going to put Sniper into the A category. Just hear me out. This badge is basically useless for almost everybody. But the reason I'm putting it into the A category is because it is one of the best badges in the game. But only for players who shoot with the aiming mechanic with the stick. If you shoot with your button, you do not need this badge. It's absolutely useless. But if you shoot with your stick, if you aim your jump shots, you're absolutely going to want this badge. It's one of the best badges in the game for sure, if that's how you shoot. But I know that's not how most people shoot in this game, so I'm putting it into the A category. But it's not a good badge if you don't shoot like that. So don't invest into it if you shoot with your button. For sure. And next up right here we have Space Creator. I'm going to go ahead and put Space Creator into the B category. I think this badge is slightly better than Ankle Breaker. I think it really is one of the best dribbling badges in the game, other than Handles for Days and Quick First Step. And basically what Space Creator does is when performing any step back, move, or shot, there's a higher chance of successfully creating separation from the opponent. And it also helps you break opponents' ankles when you do step back shots or step back dribble moves. So if you do a lot of step back moves, this is something that you're for sure going to want to invest into. If you have ankle breaking shots, the takeover, then this is for sure something you're going to want to invest into, because you'll be breaking everybody's ankles. So this is a solid playmaking badge right here. If you have at least, 15 to 20 playmaking badges and you really like dribbling in this game, this is something that you could invest into. Really good on Hall of Fame, but it also has some value at lower tiers as well. And next up right here we have Special Delivery, and I'm going to put Special Delivery into the B category, even though I don't really think a lot of people will have any usage for this badge, just because it only helps you if you throw a lot of flashy passes. So if you don't throw any flashy passes at all, this badge is absolutely useless for you. But if you do throw flashy passes, basically what it does is gives a takeover boost to both the passer and the receiver of a flashy pass if the receiver scores off of it. So it's just like the badge last year, but this year it helps not only the receiver get a takeover boost, but also the person who threw the flashy pass, which is really good. Additionally, this badge increases alley-oop throw success and shot chance for receivers after a flashy pass. So that's really good as well. It will not only give you takeover off a flashy pass, but it will increase the chances of you making the shot off a flashy pass. So this is a pretty good badge. B category, could even be an A category, or even an S category if you throw a lot of flashy passes. But the reason I'm putting it down here is because a lot of people don't even throw flashy passes, so it's not a super essential badge. But yeah, that's Special Delivery right there. And next up we have Stop and Pop, and basically what this badge does is boost your shot rating on standstill 3-pointers after dribbling. So this is really a better version of set shot, like I said, especially if you're a dribbler. So I'm going to put this into the A category. If you find yourself dribbling a lot and then quick stopping and shooting, this is a super important badge. For sure you're going to want it as high as you can get it, because it will definitely have some value for you. So Stop and Pop, super good badge. I mean, if you dribble a lot, you could put it on. If you don't, if you're a big man, you probably don't need it. But yeah, that's that. And next up right here we have Stop and Go. And I'm going to go ahead and put Stop and Go all the way down into the E category. Now, before people start going crazy on me in the comments, just hear me out right here. The reason I'm dropping this badge so low is because it's so overrated for some players. There's a reason that no pro players use this. There's a reason that no good players use this. It's because it takes away so many good start and finishing animations and replaces them with these really weird animations that nobody likes to have. They're not as good for comboing with dribbling, even if they are slightly faster for stopping and going. And plus, this badge really doesn't even make stopping and going that much faster. It makes it a little bit faster, but the animations that it gives you are so bad that it cancels out the effect that the Stop and Go could even have. And it really makes this badge not only pretty useless, but really just an annoying badge to have on. So I don't recommend putting on Stop and Go under any circumstances. If you want to give it a try, I mean, feel free. You could give it a try for sure. Maybe you'll like it. I don't like it. I know a lot of people else don't like it, but maybe you will. You never know. So you could give it a try if you want to, but I don't really recommend putting it on. But next up right here we have Teardropper, and I'm going to go ahead and put Teardropper into the F category. This badge basically helps you make floaters and runners. So, I mean, I never see people shoot floaters and runners ever in this game. It's really not a very good strategy to use, to just be shooting floaters a lot. Obviously, most builds have like a 95 driving dunk, so people just go for posterizers every time, which is honestly a lot better of a strategy than shooting floaters or runners. So if you do shoot floaters or runners, maybe you want to invest in a teardropper, but most people probably don't, so it's an F category badge. Definitely not worth investing into for most builds and most playstyles. But next up right here we have tight handles, and I'm also going to put tight handles into the C category right here. This badge is really in between ankle breaker and space creator in my opinion, so it could be in the B category, but I'm going to put it in the C category right here. And basically what this badge does is it increases a player's ball handling ability in size up situations, making it easier to break down defenders. And it also, at Hall of Fame, it unlocks pro dribble moves. So I do not recommend getting this badge up to Hall of Fame if you do not want pro dribble moves equipped, which I know most people don't. Or sorry, not pro dribble moves, park dribble moves. I know most people don't want park dribble moves equipped, so do not invest into tight handles all the way up to Hall of Fame if you don't want those. But if you do want them, make sure you get this badge up to Hall of Fame. That's how you get them this year. But anyways, the reason I'm putting tight handles into the C category right here is because it does provide a slight boost on size up situations, which is really good if you're a dribbler who does a lot of size up moves. You're definitely going to want this badge because it can slightly freeze your opponent just for like a millisecond. If you put this badge onto bronze, which is the rarity that I recommend putting it onto, then you'll definitely notice just a slight difference when you're doing size up moves in how the defender reacts. They'll kind of freeze up just a little bit. It's very slight, and you more than likely will not notice it if you're not looking for it. So tight handles is a C category badge. If you do a lot of size up moves and you have a lot of playmaking badges, probably something that you want to invest into. Otherwise, you can definitely ignore it. But next up right here, we have Tireless Defender, and I'm going to go ahead and put Tireless Defender into the C category right here. This badge is really okay. It's not a terrible badge. It's not an amazing badge. The situation that I would really recommend Tireless Defender for is if you're a guard build that has a decent amount of defense badges, maybe at least 15 defense badges, then you'll probably want to invest into this badge onto either bronze or silver, because it will definitely help you not lose as much stamina when chasing around offensive players, which we all know sometimes offensive guards can really just run around the court a lot for no reason. They'll spend the whole shot clock just running around, and it'll wear out your stamina super bad. And Tireless Defender just on bronze or silver will really help out with that. So it's something you may want to invest into for a guard. For a big man, I don't really recommend it though, just because big men don't lose as much stamina on defense. But yeah, that's Tireless Defender, C category. Maybe could even go in the D category right there, but I'll put in the C category right here. And next up here we have Tireless Shooter, and I'm going to put Tireless Shooter into the B category. This is a pretty decent badge. Obviously what it does is it decreases the penalty that you get for shooting the ball when you have low stamina. So if you're a guard that dribbles around a lot, you know, kind of the opposite of Tireless Defender, if you're the guard that spends the whole possession running around and dribbling around a lot, then Tireless Shooter is definitely something that you're going to want to invest into. I recommend getting it up to at least gold or Hall of Fame to get the most boost out of it. But you could also use it on bronze or silver if you find that you only run out of stamina every once in a while and maybe you don't want to invest quite as many shooting points into it. But it is definitely a decent badge for guards. Again, for big men, probably not something that you need to invest into right there with Tireless Shooter. But next up right here we have Trapper, and I'm going to put Trapper all the way down into the F category. This badge is so useless. I cannot understand any situation where you would use this badge. Basically, you would need 2 people on your team to have it, and you would need to double somebody to try to trap them. And I mean, why would you ever do that? You can't just double somebody because then somebody's going to be wide open, you know. You really can't do that in this game. So Trapper is one of those badges that's basically, I mean, it's basically useless. Just trust me on that. Trapper is absolutely useless. Do not invest into it under any circumstances. It's a terrible badge. So yeah, that's Trapper. But next up right here we have Unpluckable, and I'm going to go ahead and put Unpluckable. I'm going to put it into the A category just because the S category is absolutely full, but it could even go in the S category. Unpluckable is a really good badge, and I just want to clear up something really quick. It's a grievance that a lot of people seem to have with Unpluckable, and that's that they put the badge on and they still get the ball stolen from them a lot. And I just want to clear this up really quickly. There's 2 reasons for that. One, Unpluckable does not make it impossible for you to get the ball stolen from you. Obviously, if you have a lower ball handle or a medium tier ball handle, and the player you're playing against has a really good steal, they can definitely still steal the ball from you. And also another reason that a lot of people get the ball stolen from them while they have Unpluckable on is because they just bump into people while dribbling, and the people who are stealing the ball from them are getting bump steals, not reaching steals. It's bump steals. So if you find that you are running into people and they're just stealing the ball from you from bumping into you, Unpluckable will not help you with that. You kind of just have to be carefuler with where you're dribbling. Try your best not to just dribble into people, and really try to just be careful, because Unpluckable will not help you with that. That's just something that you need to change in your playstyle. But yeah, that's Unpluckable, A category badge. Could even go in the S category badge if there was more room right there, but there's no room, so putting it in the A category right here. And next up we have Volume Shooter, and I'm going to put Volume Shooter into the B category. This is really a pretty good shooting badge, definitely a little bit better than Green Machine. I recommend Volume Shooter over Green Machine just because it helps you make shots. Even if you do not make the shots, it will help you make more shots if you're shooting in a high volume. So if you're chucking up shots like crazy, Volume Shooter is a super essential badge. And if you're a guard that shoots a lot, or even if you're a big man that shoots a lot, you find yourself taking a lot of shots, Volume Shooter is definitely a badge that you're going to want to invest into. I recommend it for every single build that finds themselves shooting at least once per minute in the game time. So if you have a 6-minute game and you shoot at least 6 times in that 6-minute game, then you're definitely going to want to probably invest into Volume Shooter. If you play a 6-minute game and you shoot 3 or 4 times, the badge probably won't help you out at all, so you're not going to want to bother investing into it. But if you're shooting at least 1 time per minute, Volume Shooter is a badge that you want to invest into. I recommend it as silver. I find it has a really good effect at silver, and you don't need it much higher than that. So yeah, that's Volume Shooter right there. And next up we have Worm, and I'm going to go ahead and put Worm into the C category right here. This is an okay badge. Basically what it does is helps you get around box outs. It's kind of the opposite of box, and it's really an underrated badge. I recommend just getting it onto bronze, and you'll find that sometimes if you're getting boxed out by a defender that doesn't have box, you'll just be able to get around the box out. You don't have to push any buttons to activate Worm. You don't have to do anything like that. You'll just be able to get around the box out and get the rebound, and it's really useful, especially for only have to invest onto it on bronze to see the effects. So I definitely recommend getting Worm if you have at least like 15 defense badges. Just get it onto bronze, give it a try. I promise you it'll help you get a couple extra rebounds, maybe 1 a game, maybe not even 1 a game, but to invest into it on bronze, it's definitely worth it. Worm is definitely a super underrated badge right there for any big man build. So yeah. Next up right here, this is the final badge, and I actually could not find the picture for this badge, so we're just going to use this picture right here. It's like a relay passing thing, and this badge is Relay Passer, and I'm going to go ahead and put Relay Passer into the C category right here with Worm. And basically what this badge does is it's like the hockey assist version of Dimer. So Dimer helps you out when you pass to somebody and they shoot. Relay Passer helps you out when you pass to somebody and then they pass to somebody else and then that person shoots. So that's what I mean by the hockey assist thing, and this is a pretty decent badge if you're playing rec or if you're playing threes. I'm not sure if it works where you pass to somebody and then they pass back to you and you shoot. I don't think it would give you a boost on those shots, but I'm not 100% sure. I just assume that it wouldn't because it wouldn't really make sense if it did. So really this badge is only worth investing into if you have a good amount of playmaking badges so you can get all the more important ones first, and you find that you're passing to somebody and then they pass to somebody else and they score, so you're getting a lot of pass to assists. If you're a pass to assist type of guy, then Relay Passer is definitely a badge that you're going to want to invest into. If not, you can probably ignore it. But yeah, that's the final badge right there. So that is every single badge in NBA 2K21 Next Gen ranked on this chart right here. If you guys could like this video, I really appreciate it. I've been talking for about 2 hours now and my voice is starting to get dried out quite a bit, so I really appreciate any likes that I get on this video. Also share it with your friends so they can learn about all the best badges in NBA 2K21 Next Gen. And make sure you subscribe to my channel because I upload daily NBA 2K21 content, build guides, jump shots, tips and tricks, all that. And I also stream on Twitch. My Twitch link will be down in the description. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Peace.